Okay, today we're going to take a look at barriers to development. In other words, what prevents a lot of these countries that are in the periphery or semi-periphery from advancing and moving into the core or at least the semi-periphery if they were at the periphery level. One of the biggest issues is trafficking, and this can be done in a number of ways. You have literally human trafficking where people are taken, addicted to drugs, and generally kept as slave labor in foreign countries, generally removing their passports and taking things away from them so that they can be managed. The biggest one, though, is modern day wage slavery. This is really the most common form. Essentially, what happens is an individual is kept in perpetual indebtedness. In other words, you contract yourself out to work for somebody and they, let's say, agree to pay you $200 a month, but they're the ones who control your food, they control your rent, and every week it costs you $225. So every week you come out $25 short and you can never actually leave. Okay, and again, another one that we see a lot of in the United States is again the promise of a better life, where individuals are deceived and then generally they lose their passports, are taken, they're addicted to drugs, and they're essentially used as slave labor. Now, another one is called structural adjustment loans. Now, these are generally made to peripheral countries by the semi-peripheral or the actual core countries, and what they do is they actually make rules and agreements that says that those companies in turn can actually control the way the country actually does business. So imagine like a private bank, like let's say Chase Manhattan makes a structural adjustment loan to a country like Ghana, and Ghana has to abide by the rules of what the bank actually tells them to do. Okay, so this is really just a crazy way where, again, the idea is that the businesses or countries that extend these loans are the ones really making a profit, and it's actually preventing the wealth from staying within the country. Another problem is a lot of these end up having defaults on it. And again, this is because in a lot of cases, agriculture, remember, in most of our peripheral regions is the main thing that they're doing. So when we have things like a drought or something, it can literally cause a global crisis for that particular country. And then imagine this, if the country defaults on a loan, is another country or a bank going to be willing to extend credit again, which making it unlikely and therefore causes permanent, permanent, the country gets permanently stuck essentially in the periphery because nobody's willing to take a chance or risk that. Another one, particularly Africa, is political instability through military coups. This is a picture of Captain Amadou Sanogo, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, overthrew the elected president of Mali, President Amadou Toumani Toure, in 2012. And eventually Songo was actually brought to the UN for war crimes. But, the instability, particularly in Africa, is a daily basis almost in some cases, where there's constant fighting going on in these countries and the normal elected governments are being overthrown. The last one is, of course, vector diseases. And again, this really affects more so the periphery countries and the semi-peripheries than the core. A vector is essentially a host or a carrier that will actually transmit or infect diseases. And again, the number one vector in the world is the mosquito, which carries, of course, malaria. Malaria, particularly in Africa, is one of the biggest killers in the world. Even though a lot of Africans do possess sickle cell anemia, remember sickle cell anemia actually causes other problems with the related health of the Africans. And in most cases, when they combat the disease, they're generally temporary. It doesn't have the long-term effect required, again, because the countries, are so underdeveloped.